Any opinions or viewpoints contained in the following program are expressly those of the program presenter and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy, opinions, or viewpoints of Praise Radio or M&M Broadcasting. Welcome to Let's Talk About It with Laura Paul. Join Laura as she brings interesting guests, inspirational discussion, and a Christ-centered perspective on life. Enjoy the next hour with your host, Laura Paul.
I'm so glad to have you with us, and this is our very first Monday of the year, so I'm just tickled to death. And so I just want to thank everyone for listening. Thank you, Praise 96.3, for allowing a program like this. Thank you, Dan Bell, for producing and getting the music on for us to have a little intro for you as we start out 2026. And I have a super special guest with me tonight. We are taking it to a whole new level. I'm so excited I can't even talk, and that's not good in talk radio. The gentleman sitting next to me is Larsen Jay. And I'm going to go ahead and out of the gate ask the first question that probably you've been asked or at least had to explain when you are talking to somebody. That's good, Dan. We'll just take that on out. Thank you. So with a name like Larsen Jay, you know what I'm going to say. I can tell you're laughing already. Well, you keep laughing and you get to catch your breath because I need you to be able to talk on talk radio. And I'll tell everybody while he does that you can catch this show on Facebook Live and on YouTube. And starting on Wednesday, you will have all the photography and pictures of what we're talking about on those programs, and they'll be out there for a month. So tell your friends if they missed tonight that they can catch it on Talk with Laura Paul on Facebook, and also Talk with Laura Paul on YouTube starting Wednesday. And I think you're going to be very interested to see the pictures of what Larsen and I are going to discuss tonight. I am tickled to death to have you. Your bio reads like a who's who, but on this program, it's not an interview. We just have a conversation and find out about Jesus in your life. But wow, you're not old enough to have had all the seasons that you've had.
Well, Happy New Year. I'm so glad to be on the show with you.
Happy New Year to you. So, tell me about the name. How many times have you had to tell an operator, yes, Jay is my last name?
For 51 years continuously, and it happens all the time. I've gotten called Jay Larsen, Larsen Jay. And actually, Larsen's my middle name. Actually, my first name is Jacob, and there's an old family tradition on my father's side of the family that most all of the men go by their middle name. And so nobody knows exactly how it started, but nobody wanted to break the tradition. So my full name is Jacob Larsen Jay, but I go by Larsen.
JLJ.
JLJ. So you can call me whatever. I've been called everything.
You know what I say? I don't care what you call me as long as you do call me, right?
That's right. So
I'm going to start with when your family moved to Tennessee, because your family is a real original.
Yeah, I'm technically a seventh generation Tennessean and part of the first families of Tennessee, again on my father's side in the Marion County, South Pittsburgh, sort of lower Sequatchie Valley area of Tennessee, and really were the first settlers of, before it was a state even, and really in that whole Sweetens Cove and South Pittsburgh area, and spent a lot of time, there as a child, going back and forth and visiting and being a part of the whole, lower part of Tennessee. So we've been around a long time in Tennessee through different generations and different circumstances, but very proud.
So in that family tree, is there anyone that is historically of importance, or did you have a family member that went hunting with Daniel Boone?
Actually, I had no, it's funny you asked. I actually did a whole, my wife for my 50th birthday did a whole genealogy project for me and traced back a lot of different ancestors that we didn't know about. And we found one who was a companion of Daniel Boone, and we found military servicemen who had fought in the War of 1812 with Andrew Jackson and had been part of sort of the early settlement days. So absolutely, you're correct. One of the ones that was probably most interesting was one relative who had served in the Tennessee House of Representatives as a representative for that area, and they did a survey of his new survey of the state line, and they figured out that the state line went right through his property and through his house. So his living room was in Tennessee and his bedroom was in Alabama. And so later on, he actually served in the Alabama legislature as well from the same address. So we think it's the only person that has served in both state legislatures from the same address at the same place. But these were, forever ago where, they barely knew where the state lines were.
Well,
so.
I don't normally have any political anything. We barely touch anything political, or I never have politicians that are running for anything on the show.
Sure.
But toward the end of the show, we'll kind of give the hiccup on this is part of his life too. But that comes later.
Service is important no matter where it is.
Exactly, and you serve in so many ways. But we're going to go back to the beginning and start with, you were born in Knoxville?
No, actually I was born on an Air Force base in Texas. So my dad was in the Air Force, and so we moved around a lot as a kid, Georgia, Louisiana, Tennessee, and then upstate New York, and then back here for college. And so my path is all over the place, but I'm a 2-time graduate of the University of Tennessee and a Vol for life, and I've been here now 31 years, so more years than I've been anywhere else, and deeply rooted in all of East Tennessee.
So you have your MBA from UT,
yes.
But what was your undergrad?
It was actually a theater degree. Most people don't know that and ask that question. So I actually was really interested in building sets for live theater. So I was a carpenter and an artist and a builder, and I was very interested in, I got my grandfather, same one, he was the volunteer fire chief in South Pittsburgh, but he also went into Chattanooga and helped build the sets for the little theater. He was a carpenter, and so I sort of worked with him as a kid, and I just loved building the visuals. And so when I was looking for colleges that were specialty in scenic design and production design, the University of Tennessee Clarence Brown was one of the top programs, and in Tennessee, so it was a great fit for me.
What year were you there?
I was there in the sort of 92 to 97, 98 range, and I took a little time off in the middle to do some work, but or sort of mid-90s, I did get to see the national championship before I left. So
I guess the great Wanda Lee Crenshaw, was she still there?
Yes, absolutely. And the theater department was, the people that were running productions then were spectacular. So
Wanda Lee always liked to do the masters, if you will.
Yeah.
And not the musicals, but the Shakespearean venues, and I had her for acting and directing.
Ah, very good.
And I went to her and I said, I've had multiple classes with you for both of these. So what do you think I should do in life? And she said, well, my dear, those that make it in this world must have chutzpah. But I would really suggest you stay behind the curtain.
She said you have a face for radio and a voice to go with it.
I'm behind the curtain on the radio.
No,
but now we have Facebook and Live and all of and YouTube, and so it's a little harder to stay behind the curtain.
No, that's great.
But all of this led to 15 years in film.
Film and television production, yeah. I really loved, what I found through scenic design was the passion for storytelling and bringing things to life, taking ideas on a page and then bringing them to light visually, and that ultimately led to me going into the production side of film production. I really was fascinated with how were films put together, and I, after college, got an opportunity to go to Dallas to work in the film industry, and got to work on a really terrible action film with Jean-Claude Van Damme called Universal Soldier: The Return, and it was a terrible movie, but it was a good experience. And then everyone said, you've got skills, and if you want to do this, you got to go to LA, and that's where the hub is. And so I moved out to L.A. and got a chance. My very first film out there was Erin Brockovich with Julia Roberts, and was spectacular. So I went from the worst action film to the best drama all in about 2 years.
You went from action men to being able to see Julia Roberts.
Yeah, she was spectacular. So I loved it. That's how I got into film production. And then, I eventually got to the point where I loved the work I was doing. I just didn't love Los Angeles, and I was really lacking community and sort of connection points.
But before we leave out there, you did do a little accomplishment thing called an Emmy.
Yeah, I do have an Emmy on my shelf, which is kind of interesting.
And it was for what movie?
It was actually not for a movie. It was for a television series that I did called Tennessee Shines, back here at the Bijou Theater. It was kind of like our Austin City Limits. It's not on production anymore. I think actually maybe they brought it back recently, but it was for a television series to sort of showcase the best of Americana in East Tennessee. So that actually came from here, not from LA.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah, so.
But somewhere along the way, you met somebody very, very important. And we will talk about your wife later.
Yes.
But you met Jesus.
Our family has had a long, on my mom's side, I talked about my dad on my grandfather's side in South Pittsburgh. On my mom's side, in Chattanooga, was my grandfather and my grandmother. They lived up on Signal Mountain, and he was the chaplain at Macaulay for about 35 years. So we grew up going to the Little Brown Church up on the top of Signal Mountain.
Literally the Little Brown Church on the hill.
That is literally, it is called the Little Brown Church. It is the Little Brown Church, and it's where we grew up, and certainly where we were part of, Macaulay and part of that community, and just, but we traveled around a lot, and we're a little bit here and there. So, our family has always been rooted in both faith and service. And I think those go hand in hand. We've always, back from long ago, serving the country, on one side of the family, serving, into volunteer fire capacity and helping the community, and the other one serving as a chaplain. Service has always been a part of who we were and how we've sort of been part of it, and it continues to be in our family and our children as well.
Well, speaking of service, let's get into the nitty-gritty. I've told everyone that in 2026 we're going to have more personal stories.
Yeah.
And we're really going to hear the behind the scenes. So don't give the Reader's Digest version that you gave when I first met you. And I first met Larsen Jay at the hospital.
Yeah, just a couple weeks
ago. And I'm so thrilled that you were able to work your extremely busy schedule to join us, and tell everyone that's listening to the radio tonight and will be watching on YouTube and Facebook Live your story. And don't give it that quick. I want you to take us there as to exactly what happened. And I'll ask the questions that I think that the folks listening might want to hear.
Yeah.
And, of course, we prayed before the show, and it's that God uses our vocal cords for His purposes to touch somebody out there listening and make a difference.
Yeah.
So
I was working.
Your story.
Yeah, I was working in the film and television industry. Moved back here to work in mostly cable production, and really met my wife, which we'll I think talk about later, and really had a great opportunity to build a life here. We were very involved in the community. We built our business. We built our community, our careers. And really, was doing everything that you would do in your 30s, which is focusing on your career and success and all of the things. And I had a warehouse that I used to own up on the north side of town, kind of near Central and 275. It was just my kind of oasis to get away from everybody. I had cars and junk and things I'd work on and whatever. And it was a simple DIY project, and I've been building and fixing things all my life. But one of the buildings, the roof was leaking, and I was renting part of it out to a friend, and he was sort of like, "Hey, you got to fix the roof. It's leaking all over my stuff."
Was it a 2-story warehouse?
Yeah, it was about a story and a half, give or take. And so it was a simple DIY project, a weekend morning, and went to Northern Tool and decided to buy a giant tarp and fix it Florida style, which is throw the tarp on it and deal with it next year. And so I was up and down the ladder, I don't know, 15, 16 times, no problems. And I was pretty much done with the job, and I had been, on the edge of the roof and screwing things down and doing everything. And for some reason on the 15th or 16th time, I stepped on the top of that ladder, and the bottom just collapsed out from underneath me, and it just disappeared. And I fell about a story and a half face down onto concrete.
Face down on the concrete.
I mean, because you were getting on the ladder, a big long extension ladder, and it just gave way at the bottom, and I just didn't have anybody there holding it. And so I broke my left arm, my left wrist, my right elbow, my right femur, my nose, and 10 skull fractures, and shouldn't be here with you today. And
I'm surprised you didn't break more than that.
It was enough.
And how many skull fractures?
10, 6 on this side, 4 on this side.
Oh my goodness.
And so, I was awake and I was conscious. I had enough Boy Scout and first aid training to know kind of what serious trauma looked like. Mm-hmm. And, when people talk about near-death experiences, they talk about that moment of clarity sometimes that they have. And I, after the initial shock, I had that. And it really was, okay, it was an awareness of I'm alone. I'm in an industrial part of town behind a fence by myself. Like, you got to do something for yourself. There's no, you go into sort of survival mode very quickly.
Do we still have cell phones?
I did, but, I had a cell phone in my front left pocket, but I had jeans on. Well, my left arm was literally sideways,
oh, goodness.
Like that. So it's not usable.
Yeah, you're on camera. You can show everybody.
It was bent 90 degrees the way it shouldn't be bent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I couldn't get to my phone. It was really hard, and I couldn't see because obviously I'd learned, thought about it later. I was bleeding, my head was bleeding, and I knew if I could just get to my phone, I could call, and but I just had a hard time getting to my phone. And
your other wrist was broken too.
The other wrist and arm were broken, but at least it was, somewhat functional. And about 50 feet from me was kind of a loading dock, and I guess I figured if I could prop myself up, I could get to my phone. And so I got up on my broken leg, and I limped over there, and eventually used my right hand, to get my left. Try to get something out of your left jean pocket with your right hand in a normal day. And so I just
and this was anything but normal.
But yeah, and so I pushed through that and was able to call 911. I knew if I could just repeat the address that somebody would be there, and I did. And a few minutes later, help arrived, and so I was in level 1 ICU for 2.5, 3 days. And then I was moved to the level 1 trauma floor at the UT Medical Center, which is the 10th floor. You never want to be on the 10th floor at UT.
Now, why is that?
That's the bad floor. That's the.
Tell me why. I've never been there.
Well, I hope you were never there.
And I'm sure many listening have never been there.
Yeah,
so.
it's the highest level of trauma. It's falls, it's accidents, it's gunshots, it's it's
people in pain.
The most severe pain, and so I was there for 10 days. I got moved to Patricia Neal Rehab Center for 10 days, home in a wheelchair for about 3.5 months, and 15 surgeries and counting put me back together. So I've got lots of metal parts and pieces and lots of ailments. But
the bionic man.
I am. But that all led to why I'm here and why I met you, which is the formation of Random Acts of Flowers. And that first week was it was the hardest week of my life. It was the most critical moment to try to piece together what happened, and then what will life look like, and then what does that mean for professionally, what does that mean for my marriage? What does that mean for, what things I might want to do? It's a real mental.
Now, you were already married.
I was married, yet not children yet. We had been married several years, and so one thing that happened in that critical first week was the delivery of flowers. So as word had spread, deliveries of flowers started to arrive in my room. Now, most guys have never been sent flowers,
right?
Ever. I had never been sent flowers, ever. And so in the first few days that I was conscious, deliveries would start arriving. And hospital rooms, they're not very big.
Right.
So 1 delivery, 2 delivery, 5 deliveries, 10 deliveries. By the third day, I had 30, 40 bouquets. By the end of the first week,
You were well loved.
I had 50 bouquets. And the outpouring of support came in the way of flowers, and that did something remarkable.
How old were you when this happened?
33. And so it was remarkable because it seemed like every time I really, really struggled emotionally, and mentally with, what the situation was, or even with pain or anything else, another delivery would show up and another delivery would show up.
What hurt the most, the reset bones or the skull injuries? You haven't really talked about, 15 surgeries, but you didn't really talk a lot about, did you have a lot of pressure on the brain?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I did not have any brain issues. I didn't have any brain damage or any pressure. It was just, they described your skull as like an egg, and it's like a hard-boiled egg, and you don't really crack it, you just sort of roll it and crack it. That's kind of it. That's how they described it to me. So I had fractures, but it weren't so severe that it, did issues. And so they had to put my nose back together, but it was the appendages. I had a left arm that was literally shattered. I had a left wrist, another left wrist. I had an elbow that was shattered. I had a knee that was, in 2 pieces, and so, it was a tough week, and as those flowers kept arriving, it certainly changed my mood. It changed my outlook. It changed, the perspective. It showed the love and support that I had.
Yeah, you knew people care.
Yeah, and it almost became kind of a joke that the florists were saying that, they were driving literally from their shop to my room and back to their shop and back to because there were orders. Just people all over the town, all over the country, even internationally, people heard about this accident and said, let me lean in, and flowers were the way. And so something else happened about day 2 or 3 that I was awake. As the flowers kept amassing. We had them on the table, on the chair, on the wheelie thing, on the floor, in the bathroom. We had them everywhere. It really was a jungle of joy and happiness in a very stark place. Medical facilities are pretty dark. And every time someone came into the room, and it didn't matter if it was a doctor, a nurse, an administrator, a person delivering food, cleaning up, janitor, every time somebody walked in the room, they stopped and they perked up. I could see it visually. They would come in and
they liked coming to your room.
Yes.
Just because of all the flowers.
So it smelled better, it looked better, it felt better. It helped their mental health immediately when they walked in the room and perked up. That did something to them.
It put a smile on the nurse's face.
But it wasn't just the nurses. It was the person cleaning up that does the janitor work. It was the friend or the visitor. It was the hospital administrator. It was the person making deliveries of food. It was every single person. And I noticed that. So that week was a tough week. But by the end of the week, I got really stir crazy. I had to get out of my room. I was there for a week. I was broken. So I'd convinced my family and the nurses to get me out of my room and just get me in a wheelchair and just go somewhere, which took like 45 minutes to get me in a wheelchair. Bags, casts, IVs. It was tough. And as soon as I left my room and I turned the corner, that stark industrial hospital sterile came back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't in that jungle of joy and happiness. I was back in hospital land. And so as I got rolled down the 10th floor rooms, I kept seeing room after room after room, no visitors, no flowers, no nothing.
Mm.
And it just clicked. And I said, let's take me back to the room. Now, they thought I was going back because I was hurting.
In pain and wanted to get back in bed.
Right. And I said, we got back and I said, take all the cards off the flowers and load me up. And they went, what?
What?
I said, yeah, look at what we have and look at how many people have no one and nothing. So load me up. We didn't ask for permission. We didn't follow protocol. We didn't ask for the rules. It was the right thing to do at the right time for the right people. That was it. And so we loaded up my flowers on my wheelchair, and I had broken arms that were kind of holding them. And we started making deliveries. And the genesis for Random Acts of Flowers was born with the very first delivery, right next door. All week long, we had been hearing just unbelievable cries of pain and anguish from the woman next to us. You know, you can hear everything in hospitals. Mm-hmm. And all week long, you could just hear her suffering. And you know, you can't unhear that. When we went into her room, she was in full kind of headgear traction, you know, like it was clear no one was with her.
Right.
No family, no advocates. She was all kind of wired up. And the only way I can describe it is she had these desperate eyes of, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Pull the plug, help me. I don't know. You know,
I can't take the pain any longer.
I'm all done.
Yeah.
Help.
Mm-hmm.
And we gave her a big bouquet, just like the one I brought you. You gotta show it. You gotta bring it over.
I'm going to show everyone. I was going to wait until you told me to pull it up. Yeah, but can everyone see this? I'm gonna. There's the vase, and here are all the flowers, and it is absolutely beautiful. And
now don't cover up your pretty face with the flowers.
No. I want everybody to see these beautiful flowers. I was so tickled when you walked through the door and brought the flowers. There's even roses in the back, orange roses. And so let's go back to what happened with her when you gave her some of your flowers.
So we gave her this big bouquet of flowers, and she immediately went from that look of desperation to smiling and crying. In 2 seconds. We fundamentally shifted her whole world from pain to joy for just like that much. And room after room after room. I'll never forget another gentleman on that floor. His wife was there. She had fallen. She had cancer, and she had had a big fall off of something. And he had told us about how he was a gardener. And we went back and we got him this huge plant. Somebody had sent me one of those big peace lilies or whatever it was. And we gave it to him, and he hugged it. Like, he hugged that plant and just wept. And it's like we gave him something back to take care of while he took care of her. And so, like, room after room after room, you just, like, the power of a total stranger coming into somebody else's room with a big load of flowers and saying, just keep smiling.
And so that is how this business of volunteering, because it's all volunteer.
It is, yeah.
That was 2007?
July 29th, 2007 was my accident, and the following week was the genesis of Random Acts of Flowers. I didn't know at the time, of course, but during my recovery, you know, you spend a lot of time in a wheelchair, you spend a lot of time by yourself. I kept thinking about those deliveries. And I kept going, gosh, somebody must be doing this.
And so I have a surprise for you.
Uh-oh.
We're going to stop the story for just a moment. Okay. And on the phone joining me is a young lady by the name of Shelby. Shelby, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I sure can. And so you're here on Let's Talk About It with me, Laura Paul, and my special guest is Larsen Jay. And he has been telling his story of how he started Random Act of Flowers. And why don't you share with him, because I can tell that he's not, I didn't tell him that I had a surprise for him.
No, what a great surprise.
And so why don't you tell him who you are and what transpired and why we're talking to you tonight.
So a couple weeks ago, you happened to be at Fort Sanders and for delivering flowers, and one of the volunteers came in and gave me and my husband flowers. And you were able to come in and talk to us and tell us your story. And and Laura got to hear the story too. So I'm thankful that you were there. I'm thankful that this is a service that you provide to so many people. Because what I don't think I told you at the time, but when you came in, when we were gifted the flowers, was right after one of the hardest moments of mine and my husband's life, of having to pray over our baby and say goodbye for a minute, because he was going over to Children's in an incubator, unable to breathe on his own. And it was just a really hard time. And being gifted flowers that lightened up the room even when it felt really dark and drabby, and brought the smell of a smell of peace, a smell of God's creation into a otherwise sterile area, made it lighter and helped us to feel more at peace and to feel more with nature, where God has created us and our child. So thank you for doing that and for creating this wonderful thing you guys do.
Well, first off, is it your son, your daughter?
Our son, he was able to come home the day after Christmas. We were able to bring him home.
Wonderful. Well, it's great news to hear, and I do remember that delivery, and I remember you all, and that's great. I really appreciate you calling in today. That means a lot. It means so much to hear what the impact is.
Thank you again for calling in and sharing. I wish you could see the grin on this man's face. And I can tell that, it goes both ways. It's a blessing to give, and it's a blessing of giving is what goes around comes around, and it comes back to you. You were blessed in the moment of giving the flowers, and now you're a little blessing to
That's
say
great.
to say thank you coming back around.
Yeah, what a great way
Surprise.
to start. I know, that's wonderful. And Shelby, thank you so much for calling in. I mean, I have always said that the giving of flowers is one of the most universal gestures you can give to everyone, because that's the beauty of Random Acts Flowers. We don't know, and we didn't know what Shelby and her husband were going through, right? So we come with flowers because we know they're going to have meaning. And then we go to the nurses and say, who needs the pick-me-up? Because they make the decision. We don't make the decision.
So let's move on to telling everyone about the flowers, where they come from, and the how business is grown and how it works. And you would not believe, but since I met you, I have additionally met some people that have been your volunteers and are your volunteers.
Awesome. They're the
along
best.
the way. And I have, so I've met recipient, I have met volunteers, and I have someone that just moved to town 4 weeks ago, and they were listening to us talk about it, and they are all excited about becoming a volunteer.
Awesome. Okay, so here's how it works. Let me just explain the program. We take flowers that are donated to us, and they could come from any number of sources. That any place there is a flower that is used, unused, or unsold, or lightly used, then it comes to us.
In other words, weddings and funerals.
Weddings, funerals, special events, fundraisers, church services, grocery stores, importers, wholesalers, florists, anywhere, even growers that are just supplying the flower market.
Do you have to go get them, or did they deliver to you?
Both. So we have some people that deliver to us, but we have an army of volunteers that go out on a regular schedule to say, pick up, they do pickups every Monday, every Wednesday, things like that. So we have a whole team of people that go out and source these flowers. They come to us, and everything gets broken down. So even if it came in just like the bouquet I gave you, we would still break it apart, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that every flower has a new cut, new water, new minerals. We also want to go through it and make sure that the ones that are in there are going to last. So we have a whole team of people that know. Now this just was made today, so that's perfect. But we have a team that goes in, and they know how to see what will live and what will not.
Right.
And so we pull it all apart. We put it all together, and then we build it as a brand new bouquet. So when it walks out the door, it's like it came out of a flower shop.
Oh, that's exactly what it looks like.
Exactly. And there's a really important part to the mission, and I'm going to have you to get the delivery card. This is really focused and on purpose, because think about it. If you're in a hospital, nursing home, hospice care, and you have no one and nothing, or you just need that critical moment like Shelby did, you're going to get the person who walked in the door with the flowers.
Right.
But then when that person leaves, you're going to get to say, who was this? And you're going to say, oh, it's an organization. So now you got 2 people that care about you. And then you're going to open it up, and you're going to see, hey, this bouquet was sponsored by this company locally, Clayton.
May I?
Yeah.
Yes, it's supported and provided by Clayton.
So that's 3 people that care about you. And then you're going to see down here where the flowers came from.
And it was provided by Trader Joe's.
So there's 4 people that care about you. And then at the bottom, you're going to find out who made it.
And the banquet was created by Liz.
Liz, 5 people. So now imagine you
I
have
hope
no
Liz
one or
is
nothing.
watching. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz. It was beautiful.
Oh, I'm just thrilled to death.
But now you have 5 people that care about you. So you feel this. You can feel this energy of the community saying, well, you matter and we want you to do better. And so there's a real purposeful thing. So we get all the flowers. We put all the arrangements together. We have partnerships with hospitals, nursing homes, hospice care. We only focus on healthcare related areas. So we don't go to people's homes. We don't go to every charity,
You're not a florist.
Correct. We'd never substitute for the florist. What we do is focus on people that are in their most dire moments or lonely moments or tragic moments, and we find a way to bring kindness and compassion to them through a vessel of recycled flowers. We are delivering hope. We're delivering kindness and compassion. We just happen to do that through the thing that everyone smiles. And I've done tens of thousands of deliveries personally. There's no one that has never not smiled when you walked in the room.
I asked you a tough question when I first met you. I said, tell me, is there anyone that has ever said, take those away because flowers die and I don't want them?
Never. It's the universal gesture that cuts across all races, religions, languages, income levels, disabilities. It is something that every single person smiles and it means something. Now, it's different for every person, and sometimes they are not able to communicate, and so we leave them there. But almost all the time, it means something, and they smile and say thank you, and they appreciate that they were not forgotten. And I think that's such a big part of what we do is we make sure people know that they're never forgotten and that someone does care, and 5 people care, and.
Right.
And then the ripple effect of the mission is not just for the recipient. The donor who gave the flowers, whether it was a wedding where they were celebrating life and joy and they want to recycle that life and joy for others, a memorial where they were celebrating a life, but now they want to honor that person far beyond the grave. It could be a special event or a Christmas party or whatever. That flower has life to give, and so we get it and repurpose it, and we take it out to the world, and we do it with 99.9% volunteers, and we do it. We run a really tight ship on our business, and we focus. We don't cure all things in the world. We just focus on kindness and compassion.
And I was looking at my phone intentionally because I was trying to have another surprise for you. It didn't quite work out.
That's okay.
But the volunteer that I met and just in the last couple of weeks since I met you is Angie Judd.
Oh,
do you know him?
I do. I think.
How do you know all these volunteers?
Well, because I go over there all the time, and I spend a lot of time talking to them all. Now, I don't touch the flowers. They don't let me touch the flowers, but I know I go and they all have name tags on, and I get to meet them all, and they're amazing.
And you're how many places now?
Well, there's one in Indianapolis, one in Tampa Bay, here in Knoxville, Asheville, North Carolina, and a new one starting in Chattanooga soon. So.
And this is still your organization.
Well, I'm the founder, but the organization runs itself now.
So it's growing on its own.
Absolutely. And I ran it exclusively for 13 years, and then I've passed the torch to new leadership. I stay on the board, I stay active, I stay engaged, and do what I can to be available anytime. But I don't run the day-to-day operation anymore. There are some other leaders.
Some other things that you've gotten into that have to do with service. And I'm going to take a moment before we transition. Sure. And before I do that, I'm going to ask you, is there anything else you want to share about this wonderful thing you started?
I do, and I'm going to look at my phone because I just got the stats. The numbers of our impact. We know that for every delivery, we impact 5 to 10 people along the way, whether it was the person who donated them, the volunteer, the delivery, the arranging, the whatever. To date,
Yes.
in East Tennessee, we have delivered 218,559 deliveries. And nationally, we have delivered 748,608, almost 750,000 deliveries nationwide. We recycle all the vases, so all the vases are donated. Everybody has 10 vases in their house collecting dust. You hear me? Take your 10 vases collecting dust to Random Acts of Flowers, drop them off.
Where do they drop them off?
Right on Middlebrook Pike. Just look up Random Acts of Flowers. It's like 2536 Middlebrook Pike. You can literally leave them at the front door. We have to recycle about 2,000 vases a month just to keep up. So we always need vases. We've recycled almost 280,000 vases in East Tennessee and over 800,000 vases nationally. And then here's the best part. This is the best statistic. 116,000 hours of volunteer service in East Tennessee and almost 320,000 hours nationally of people who have shown up and volunteered their time for people they likely will never meet. That is the volunteer spirit, and that is our country.
I get chills just talking about this.
I'll send you this picture too when we leave.
I mean, I do. It's just so incredible, and it's right here in our back door, and it all came out of a tragedy that you went through.
Yeah.
And people blessed you, and you turned around and blessed others. And look at what God can do with a bad situation to turn it around for good.
Well, I got an opportunity to shift from a focus on success, which is what happens in your 30s, to a focus on significance.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an immediate shift. I woke up every day since saying, I'm not dead. How can I be helpful? I cannot tell you the fundamental shift. It has all gone from what can I do for me to what can I do for someone else.
And I think that is the number one thing that we want to get across to those listening tonight is there is always something you can do. And if you're having a bad day, go do something for someone else is what I always
really
say.
Rewarding.
And they need people all the time with putting the flowers together, separating the flowers. I understand there's one whole day where you just separate all the flowers.
All you do is you prep them for the next day,
So
there's 100 different ways to help, but it really makes a difference, and it starts with just being kind to your neighbor and the people who need it the most, and then finding a way and you could do it through Random Acts Flowers. You could also just take flowers to the neighbor down the street who you haven't seen in a while and just say, have a great day.
And it's also a conversation starter,
100%.
Don't thank me, thank God.
100%.
And it's amazing how that will lend itself to spreading the word. So that's another sideline. All right, you take a breath, and I'm gonna continue here because I want to talk about the super supporter of this program that makes this show possible, and that's someone and a group of family members that are always doing things in the community, for the community, with the community, and that is David's Abbey Carpet and Floors, with locations in Pigeon Forge, in Knoxville, and now they have one in Maryville. Specifically in Maryville, it's at 1719 King Circle. I want to point that out. And amazing showrooms. And here in the month of January is the best time to start thinking about what your next project is going to be. Maybe you're thinking you want to do something in spring. Well, remember, sometimes you pick out something that needs to be ordered. So you might as well just go and have a look. And a look-see, as they say in East Tennessee. And there's so much to discover there of flooring, vinyl, hardwoods, laminate, tile, stone, area rugs. I can keep going. I just thought I'd give you
What don't they have?
That would be the what don't they have exactly. David's Abbey Carpet and Floors, huge selection. Go to one of their showrooms and tell them Laura sent you, and you can tell them, oh, and we heard about this guy in flowers. Let me tell you what you can do with flowers.
Well, that's actually a great company. I know them, and if you don't have an idea of what you want to do, they have great designers and teams. You can just say, my living room is boring, and they will help you. Like, they're awesome. They're a great company.
You know, you're hired, and I did not even discuss this with you.
No, I just know them, and I really respect that company. It's a great local company, and so you can just sort of come in and say, I don't know what I want, but I need help, and they're great people.
Over 50 years in business and 3 generations of family, and
well, they treat people well, and that's the key. They always treat people really well.
I'm telling you guys that all the time.
To say this, they're just awesome.
Well, and I'm not either. You know, they're supporting so that this show can be on the radio station, and so they're my super supporter. They make things happen. They make things possible. They're doing something for the Valentine event that Praise 96.3 is going to be having for a lot of the people in our community, and they were talking about that earlier on JP's show. So very, very wonderful, wonderful organization. I'm going to move on to, we're listening, by the way, to Praise 96.3. Let's talk about it with Laura Paul. And my special guest is Larsen Jay. And what I did want to have a little time to talk about service.
Yeah.
And not just with flowers.
No, community service.
Community service. And so in that family history, you were talking about being one of the first families of Tennessee. You've mentioned that some of your ancestors were in public service, and you have been in public service in so many different ways. And in this particular area, you've been elected not once, but twice to the position of county commissioner. Seat number 10. Now, explain to people that don't know what seat 10 is.
Well, we have 9 districts in Knox County that are represented by a commissioner. Each of those districts is about 60,000 people. And then we have 2 commissioners called at-large commissioners. And so at-large seat 10 and at-large seat 11. And what that means is we represent all 500,000 constituents. So there's 2 people that represent everybody. So no matter if you live in Corryton or South Knoxville or Hardin Valley, there's 2 of us, and I'm one of those that represent 5. So I have 500,000 bosses, including you.
You're the guy at large.
Every day, exactly. So it just means the whole county. And I've had the privilege of serving now. I'm in my 7.5 years as a public official, and really, really enjoy public service.
You know, any politician's going to say that they really enjoy public service. Tell me the thing that you love the most from a day-to-day experience of what you do in that role.
I love when I get the call from somebody who says, I don't know if you can help, or I don't know who to turn to, can you help? Or I don't even know if this is an issue that you can, anybody in the government can help with. Like when it's truly, I don't know who else to turn to, can you be helpful to me? That is like, I love that because it's problem solving and it's finding a way. What seems sometimes to be maybe a small issue to me might be a massive issue to that person. But I've also had people call that have, had major issues, with bills or things that had to do with the county ambulance or something like that, or people that their houses have flooded because there was a drain clogged and we needed to figure out a way to so sometimes it's really life-changing issues, sometimes it's small things, but what they've done is they've reached out and said, I don't know who else to go to, but I'm going to go to you, and if I can solve that problem, which about 90% of the time we can,
it's an awesome feeling because you can change people's lives by just making life a little bit easier. And Knox County government, we are in the service business. So we're just a public service company.
Well, where did you get the idea to put this little podcast together that you run on your website?
Oh, the Knox Job series.
Knox Job series.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a look at all the videos, but I would encourage the listeners to go to tell them where to.
Yeah, just go to www.larsenjay.com, and there's a button called Knox Jobs. And it came from, I was going out and helping with constituents, but I was going to job sites and learning about their companies, and I just thought it was a really cool way to showcase local companies. So it's all local companies, and instead of just interviewing them and sort of saying, hey, it's kind of look at this thing, I actually go work with them. Like, I'm in the trenches.
I know.
And
that's why I want to encourage everyone to go to this site and watch these videos. And it's not about this guy. It's not about Larsen Jay. It's about these companies and these people that he's giving the spotlight to, if you will, and showing what they do in their jobs.
It's all local companies and local family companies, and so I've been out with the chainsaw crew, with the guys that clear trees, with the people that pour concrete. I've been out with the dog walking and training groups, the people that bake bread at 3 a.m., which I actually went at 3 a.m. to bake bread with them. I'm in the trenches, and I have a new one coming out next month with East Tennessee Portables, where I actually clean the porta potties and do all that work. I mean, I'm telling you, when I'm in the trenches, I'm in the trenches. But it's a showcase of who are the people that make Knox County run every day with all the stuff that maybe you didn't see before. And so next time you drive by, a construction site, you'll have a little bit different perspective. Or next time you eat that bread at Aubrey's, when you sit down, you'll go, hey, I know who bakes those now.
Or the next time you see a porta potty on a work site.
You're going to have a little bit more appreciation
now,
for
Dirty Jobs is a show that's already been done.
I know. I can't say I didn't steal the idea a little bit, but it's all local companies, and I really like featuring them and giving them the spotlight.
So where did the idea to do this, where did that come from?
It was just, I was out at a construction site helping some constituents, and I thought it would be really cool to show how they pour foundations. And then, of course, I'd seen Dirty Jobs, and I'd seen some videos like that. And so I just said, well, I'll just start Knox Jobs and just go for it. So
now, if you're just tuning in, remember, the guy does have an Emmy.
Well, it's in the film business and television business.
And TV business.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying is that if you didn't get the entire show, you can go on Wednesday, starting Wednesday, on YouTube and Facebook Live, and we'll have videos of some of the things that we're talking about that you can actually see besides just hearing our story.
And I truly do love the public service aspect of it. I mean, 80% of my job as a commissioner is really enjoyable. Yeah, there's 15 or 20% of the sort of the muck of politics, but honestly, like every day, we solve problems and we help people, and I really love. That's why I got into it. I really do not want to be a lifelong politician. I ran to serve, and I serve to be part of this community.
Well, you're going to continue serving.
Maybe. I'm going to try.
Yeah, so we will allow time for you to share what is your next goal.
Yeah, well,
if people support you, and that is to become
the Knox County mayor. So I'm running to be the next Knox County mayor, and that Republican primary is in May. And then if people want me to stick around, then I'll be on the general ballot in August. And if they want me to stick around then I'll serve as the next Knox County mayor. But I really do love the service aspect of helping this community grow and thrive.
Well, what I do love is the fact that you're someone that has a heart to know and understand what people are doing here in our community that supports all of these venues by going in and learning about their jobs.
Yeah, I love that. I love finding out what makes people tick, what their jobs and how much pride they have in the work that they do. I love going out and working and getting to know people. And I've had the privilege of meeting so many people across Knox County in every walk of life and every different demographic. And we just have a spectacular community filled with really, really big-hearted people, and I love learning. I mean, look, I was 2 floors up in the hospital making deliveries when the nurse tracked me down and said, "You got to come meet Laura," and so I did a detour. And we sat and Shelby, and we got to meet them, and here we are on the radio. Like, this is why I love public service.
Well, and this is why I love God and how He works in our lives, because you know, he brings people for this program. I don't have to go get people for the program. It's just, you know, I'm visiting my friend in the hospital, and then flowers come in, and I'm like, who does this?
And the nurse said, "Well, he's upstairs."
Well, he's upstairs. Exactly.
Yeah, it is a
that's
a great
the
thing.
timing of things like that is I'm trying to make a point to those of you listening that maybe sometimes feel like God is not listening to your prayer, that you've not been heard, nothing's happening, nothing's changing. Well, sometimes it's baby steps, and I know you don't want to hear that, but it's baby steps, like you doing something for someone else. Now, I did not know when I was going to visit someone in the hospital who I just thought probably needed a little levity of in the midst of what was going on with them, that someone was going to walk in with flowers. I mean, timing and the way it all came together, and you're not always at the hospital where these deliveries are happening. So the chances, what were the chances? You know what I'm saying?
In early December that we
in early
paths.
December,
Yeah.
exactly, around the holidays when you're so busy and you've got all of these
Yeah.
other jobs that you're doing.
Well, look, timing it. You mentioned briefly about my wife, and I got to just put a plug in about the timing. I was, coming back here to work in the film industry. She was a newscaster, and she was doing a story on who would live in downtown Knoxville. This is back in 2001, 2002, when it was still kind
Why
of a
don't you
ghost
tell
town.
everyone who your wife is?
My wife is Adrian McLean Jay. She used to be a reporter for Channel 6. And she literally interviewed me on the morning news Tuesday, January 16th. It's coming up at 5:45 in the morning. And she was doing a story on who in the world would live in downtown Knoxville, because it's not like it was today. You remember, It was a ghost town.
Oh, yeah.
And I was one of the guys that moved into the Sturkey building, which is an old furniture factory. And we were engaged 6 months later and never left. And here we are, 21 years later.
So I'm going to have to go there all over again and say, those of you listening, and it's like, I'm never going to meet the right one. I'm never going to get married. God's not listening to my prayer. I want to be married and meet the right one. It's in God's timing, and what a great example of how that happened. And you didn't go to the interview expecting to meet your future wife.
I had no idea. It was a 5:45 on a Tuesday morning in the cold of winter, and when you know, and so it was spectacular. And
so let me be the first to say happy anniversary to you both.
Thank you. Yeah, we celebrate 2 anniversaries: the day we met and. Well, actually 3. The day I do bring flowers, not from Random Acts Flowers. I go buy them, but we celebrate the day we met, the day we got engaged, and of course the day we got married. But 2 great kids, 14 and 17, and a blessed life. So what can I ask for more?
2 questions. They're kind of tough ones. We're going to finish off on tough questions.
Okay.
1, if it's not God's plan for you to be the Knox County mayor, what next for you? Do you already have any idea?
I will show up and be helpful to somebody somewhere. I'll still do the work. I may not have the title, but the community is a really wonderful place, and I will invest in it in some way, shape, or form. I'll still be doing public service. I may not have the title, but I'll still be out there.
Well, the way we talk about how God goes before us and He's ahead of us, and He knows everything, and so He already knows what's going to happen next for you. He already knows if
I wish
that's...
you'd let me know. I got 4 months of campaigning to go.
Unfortunately, you don't get to know until everybody else knows.
Until everybody else knows. That's great.
What is the one question? You've been interviewed many, many times. Remember, this is not an interview. This is just a conversation.
Okay.
But what's the one question you wish someone had asked you? or would ask you in an interview?
Gosh, that is a tough question. What is the one question I wish somebody...
No one's asked you that you always thought, why doesn't somebody ask me this?
What do I want to be when I grow up? And I don't know if I would have a good answer to that either.
Let me be the first. Larsen Jay, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I don't know. I'm 51 and I still haven't figured that out. But I do know that time is short and life is precious, and I've been at the brink of not being here. I'm going to live every day and use every moment I have to help people and to make a great life out of this short time we have here together.
Larsen Jay, thank you for being on Let's Talk About It with me, Laura Paul. And you never know, it's like a box of chocolates, who's going to be here next week. As I always said in the previous year, I'm not going to change everything. I'm still going to tell you at the end of each program. Tonight, go talk to your best friend, Jesus. And then tomorrow, go out and talk to someone about Jesus. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk About It with Laura Paul. Join us next Monday evening at 7 o'clock for another chance to call in and talk about it with Laura Paul, right here on Your Praise 96.3.